We're going to focus on one topic, which is how to orchestrate these AI agents. We recently released an ebook around this called Agentic AI Orchestration, the next evolution of intelligent automation. But before we start, maybe we can go one slide back. I just want to make a small analogy so that we are all on the same page, right? So what is generative AI versus agentic AI? If I give an analogy, generative AI is a GPS. It gives you the direction to your destination. You input where you want to go, where you are, it gives you the route. Agentic AI is a self-driving car. It takes you there, okay? And that's why the name of our ebook is called The Next Evolution of Automation. Because all of a sudden now AI can start taking actions. It has access to tools, it can take actions, it can learn also from the feedback of these actions and improve for the next time. So like humans, okay, we cannot specialize in everything and do everything. AI agents specialize in specific tasks, okay? And that's why you need a maestro. Consider the AI orchestrator as an over-caffeinated project manager, okay? He's running these agents, orchestrating, breaking down the tasks, planning the project, giving tasks, and then getting the input from these agents and deciding whether to do a rerun of this task or whether the output is satisfactory. So I tried to decomplexify a bit what AI orchestration is. Let's go to why we need it first, okay? I think I touched a little bit about this. So first, you need a maestro to divide and conquer. You have a very complex problem. You need a maestro to divide it into smaller tasks and give these tasks to agents to execute and get back the input. It makes AI development plug and play. Now you have 3 agents, tomorrow you have 15, next month you have 100 agents. And then it provides a one shared brain, okay? This is the same context that can be passed to all of these agents about the history of the tasks, what worked, what didn't work. And lastly, it ensures that all these agents are working towards one coherent goal.
So as a guy who builds agents myself, let me dive a little bit deeper into the...
He builds whatever I'm talking about, by the way. I'm just the mouthpiece.
I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into the technical aspects of everything that we're showing here. So when we say assign tasks to the best fit agents, the brain of the orchestrator basically there lies a reasoning model. This reasoning model, the moment it receives an input from a user, it starts thinking, it even shows that thinking process to the user. It divides everything into a step-by-step process. And then once it defines a plan and receives and starts, defining and identifying the intent of the user, this is where it knows, okay, and now I do know the agents that I have access to, and each of those agents have access to some specific tools. So it routes that user request to the right agent. It might be multiple agents and not just one. And the beauty about the orchestrator is that it allows this coherent communication between the agents. So if we call 2 agents or 3 agents, this is where they can revert back and share their knowledge or output. This is where the one shared brain comes into play. So this acts as a memory that stores the output from each of the agents that it called, and it can share that knowledge between those agents up until it iterates and decides that, okay, I think I have actually answered the user question now, and I can synthesize this entire output into a nice structure, a nice format that is a human readable instead of some like JSON or structured format, and I can give that back to the user at the end of the day.
Please feel free to raise your hand if it gets too technical. We can then... Okay, let's go to the next one. Let's show you where the orchestrator lies, okay? So usually the orchestrator is in the middle, okay? It receives the input from many input channels, right? This can be a chatbot for your employees, for your customers. It can be the website and app analytics, many sources of input, and then it coordinates among many different types of AI agents. What you see at the bottom are just types of agents. Each one of these types, so for example, AI content generation. You might have hundreds of AI agents specifically under that category. Okay, agents for customer service, same thing. So the main role of the orchestrator is to get that input from the user channels. Then, as we said, distribute the tasks into the relevant agents and iterate until we get the best answer for the user.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, we're really building one massive system that has multiple agents underneath. And this same system, we can embed it into any of the channels. So think of ChatGPT today, for example. You can access it from WhatsApp. There is an app where you can access it on Android or iOS, or you can even go into the web page itself. All of these are actually connected to one system at the end of the day. The same API is being called from multiple places. Same with social media, where we have something like Meta AI embedded into Instagram, for example, as well. So the entire system can be called as one singular API from any of the input channels. And the role of the orchestrator is to decide, it doesn't matter where the request comes from, but it decides at the end of the day which one of those agents, and those are just a few examples. I mean, those are just 5 agents. We can have, I don't know, millions and hundreds of agents. It really depends on the developer. And it can call any ones of these depending, again, on the user intent, which we're going to dive more into in the next
Let's look
slide.
under the hood. Let's look under the hood of the AI orchestrator, see the functions. So these are the key functions of an AI orchestrator, and I promise you after this, we'll get done with the boring stuff. We'll go into specific examples and use cases of this whole orchestra working together in real-life scenarios. These are some of the functions that the orchestrator should do. Number 1 is intent parsing, so it should understand natural language, understand what the user wants exactly. It should do agent routing, as Hamza mentioned, distribute the tasks to the right agents, task decomposition and planning, which tasks comes first, which next, which task to get input from which task, shared memory layer to maintain a whole context throughout this whole process of invoking multiple agents, maintain the context, the history. Output synthesizing, as Hamza was mentioning, you can get different formats, different types of outputs from different agents. You need someone to standardize all of this and put it in one output or one deliverable. Feedback loop manager. This is very important, and a very important role for the orchestrator is to judge whether this input is good enough, okay? Or should I rerun it? And also not just to judge, but also to take the input from the user. After I present them the output, the employee or the customer, were they happy? Were they satisfied? Did we close that customer service ticket or not? And lastly, governance and guardrails, so that these agents don't go wild, okay? What they shouldn't do and what they should do, basically.
Basically, the feedback loop manager is what makes this agentic, I would say. So previously, we would have an LLM, and the LLM would just be reactive. You'd ask it for something, it would just give you a response. It does not have those pair of hands, I would call them, that would have access to external tools, external knowledge that makes it actually much more powerful. It would just depend purely on its internal knowledge, which sometimes would be lacking. And back then, it would have led to a lot of hallucinations. But in this particular case, now you have tools. So for example, if you ask something to an agent, it does not know the answer, but it has access to a web search tool, for example. It would go and search the internet. It would have a RAG tool that would go and search, let's say, internal documents for a business. And every time it gets back an answer from a tool, it shares it with that memory layer, and it goes, once again, it iterates, it keeps iterating through that feedback loop manager up until it makes sure that it actually got the right answer, and this is when it provides that answer back to the user.
Let's show them some real-life cases.
Sure.
So let's start with vibe coding. I'm sure you've heard the word, right? This is now the trend among coders and the developer communities.
And this is something I cannot live without nowadays. It writes 90% of my code.
So this is something like a user can be like, design a web app for my customer's registration, right? I want a full web page. I want to integrate it into my website for customers to register, right? And then this passes to the orchestrator. The orchestrator breaks down this task, and knows that I have to call 4 agents to get this done, okay? I have to call a UI agent to design it, to design that web page. I have to call a coder agent to write that code. I have to call a reviewer agent to make sure it's well documented, it's debugged. And lastly, a tester agent that writes actually test cases, run that code, and make sure that you get that customer registered in your database.
So maybe I can actually share a little example out of my own experience. So how I used to develop code before and how now I can just use agents to develop the code for me. So previously we had something like ChatGPT. We would just go on it. I would maybe explain the problem that I'm trying to develop, and it would share with me a code. But at that point, I would have to maybe copy paste that code, take it to whatever IDE where I'm developing, and I would have to run it. And I would have to identify myself whether this is actually functioning properly or not. So those decisions, all of these decisions I had to make myself. But with Agentic AI, with something like vibe coding, which by the way lives on your IDE, like wherever you are developing the code, let's say Visual Studio Code, this would be embedded so that you would ask it a question, explain what you want to do. It would keep calling multiple agents and multiple tools, and instead of it just giving me back a code that I can copy and paste, it would actually create the files for me. It can run command lines, and it can test it and create test units and create an entire web UI design to make sure and like pass it, for example, to review agents and tester agents to make sure that everything is actually functioning. So from the point of me just writing a prompt, I'm getting back something back that is fully functional within like 10 minutes.
So can we staff you to manage 2 projects at the same time now?
Isn't that
With
what's
all this
happening already?
With double productivity. Okay, the second example is customer services swarm. So this is again like a big trend right now. Companies are using AI agents for their customer service functions, whether it's a refund, whether it's technical support, whether it's any type of customer support inquiries. So the customer types in that I've been waiting for a refund for 2 weeks. This is really frustrating. This goes into the orchestrator. Again, the orchestrator here decides that, okay, I have to call 4 agents for this. One, which is a perception agent to evaluate all the customer sentiment from this conversation, but also look up data, okay, about this customer, their history with us. Then a strategy agent, or I call it an MBA agent, that next best action agent that decides what should we do? Should we give that customer a refund, or should we just send an apology email? Then you have a resolver agent, which has connections to our systems, so that executes that actions, that pushes that action to our CRM or to our app to take that action. And lastly, the feedback agent that understands the customer reaction to this action that we took and brings it back to the orchestrator to see if we can close that refund ticket or we have to rerun it again through the whole same process.
So this really makes it an all-in-one system. So like back in the day when you were chatting with some customer service bot, it would just, try to give you some predefined answers. And even with the advancements...
Sorry, I cannot help you with that.
Yeah, exactly. And even with the advancement of LLM, it would give you more of a dynamic answer, but still, because of it's just an LLM and it's reactive and does not have access to tools, it's not really an agent, it would not help you. It would just maybe get back some feedback from you, but it will have, at the end of the day, to pass it back to some human agent. But what this does is that it actually can take the action for you. So the resolver agent would call an API that can actually process that refund for you on the spot and would give you back that refund, for example. It would apologize, and you'll actually, for the first time ever, you'll get back your money. And the feedback agent will instead of you complaining about something, let's say, and then you'd have some human beings that would have to analyze a lot of text and see what was the complaints about, and you would have to maybe run an entire customer sentiment use case just to understand the customer sentiment. This is not needed anymore because the agent would get back the human feedback, it understands the context, and it can create a structured table that categorizes all of these complaints by already having whether this complaint was positive or negative, and also giving you the pain points, let's say, of what actually went wrong. So this already all happens on the spot. You don't need to run anything else.
So let's go to the conclusion now. What do you take out of all of this? Let's go to the conclusion. What do you take out of all of this? Okay, how can businesses start this whole journey, right? starting small, thinking big, analyzing your business processes, identifying, as Eddie was mentioning, those repetitive or mundane or detailed tasks where you really want to deploy AI agents. Then assemble your AI dream team. This is basically where you build those specialized agents and those tasks. Then design the conductor or the maestro of this whole thing, which is a layer on top that we have just explained. Then implementing feedback loops as well, so to see if these agents are functioning properly and if the orchestrator is giving also the right results. And last but not least, ensure human oversight. Through this whole process, we're talking how great AI is and agentic AI, but still we believe until now, you still need human intervention and human oversight over this whole process. So I think with this, you want to wrap up with something more fun?
Yeah, maybe one last point. I think it's really crucial, the human oversight factor. So although we have reached a stage where everything is automated, we have agents that can take an entire action for you. This doesn't really mean that we can run a business where agents are just taking all of the actions and making decisions. But that's it. We're not really maybe monitoring or seeing what's happening or taking actions beyond that. So the idea of a human oversight, think of it as, the simplest example is when you interact with ChatGPT, and with every response you get back like a thumbs down or a thumbs up button. So, and you write a comment, let's say. At the end of the day, maybe on a periodic basis, there is an automated way where this feedback actually goes back into the model automatically, and it would learn from it. But at the same time, there is an entire human team that would review all of these feedbacks, what went right, what went wrong, so that in any future update or in any future model that they're gonna actually ship in the future, they can train it on the text that the human actually found that it was useful, instead of anything that was actually maybe not helpful, any hallucination, anything that really went wrong. So I think even in the future, this remains a crucial factor. We cannot just depend fully on the AI capabilities. And we're seeing that, I think, with our clients as well.
Yeah. So this is our recipe to you, how to implement agentic AI and how to orchestrate these. Thank you very much.